Okay, for this particular Unit 10, we are going to be painting with the mixer brush, and in your D2L you want to open up the number 10 palette start and the number 10 landscape start as well. And in this lesson we're going to learn how to customize brush settings, learn how to clean a brush, mix colors, use an erodible tip, create a custom brush preset, and use wet and dry brushes to blend colors. Now you've used brushes before in some of our units to do various tasks, but the mixer brush is unlike other brushes because it actually lets us mix colors with other colors. And we can also change the wetness of the brush and how it mixes with the brush color in the area on the canvas. The brushes that we're going to be using have realistic bristles, so you can actually add textures that resemble those in paintings. You can also use an erodible tip to achieve the effects you might get with things like such as charcoal pencils and pastels. And combining different bristle settings and brush tips with different wetness, paint load, and paint mix settings will give you the opportunity to create very many different looks. So anyways, we're going to start out by using this palette, and what we're going to do first is we're going to select our brush settings, and as you can see here we have 4 tubes of paint that we have right here, and we're going to be using these with our color picker to select our colors. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see the paints a little easier. And if I select the eyedropper tool, which is also the I key, what you'll notice is, say I want to select this color, red, I select it right here on the palette image, and you can see that red has appeared in my top foreground color. And the mixer brush is right underneath the brush tool, and it's called the mixer brush tool, which is also B on your keyboard. So then I'm going to go and I'm going to open up the brush panel, and to do this I go to Window and open up the brush panel, and you can see that we have lots of different things we can do. It contains a bunch of different presets and options for customizing our brushes. So we're just going to do a little experiment. What we're going to do, just one second here, move this around. We're just going to leave the brush set where it's at right now. I'm just going to move this over. And what I want you to see here is the brush, the way the brush paints is determined by its wet load mix and the various options that we can find here in the options panel. You got dry, moist, wet, and very wet, and then each of these has variations as well. The load, which is found right here, controls how much paint the brush holds when you begin painting, just as you would with a regular paintbrush. And the mix controls the ratio of paint from the canvas and paint from the brush. So in the options bar, we're going to choose dry as our first setting. And as you notice, the wet is set to 0%, the load is to 50%, and the mix isn't applicable here. With the dry preset, you're going to be painting an opaque color, and you can't mix that color unless you select a different type of load. And so now I'm just going to paint in the area, you know, right here. And if you see, as I brush, in fact, I'm going to go through the history panel here and just show you that again. We'll move that over. And as you watch as I paint, you notice that the paint actually disappears then from the brush, okay, because that's my paint load, and there was only that much paint when I began painting. So we're going to sample the blue. I'm just going to put down my I key on the keyboard, and you'll notice that I get a blue that's here in the foreground color. And in the brush panel, what we're going to do is, brush panel here, we are going to select the round fan shape, okay, which I believe is this one right here, round fan. And we're going to choose wet from the pop-up menu. And then we're going to go ahead and paint. Oh, let's move that over there. Okay. And you notice how it's very thin, and what happens is that the paint is actually mixing with the white background on my document. So this is mixing with this. If I went and brought this back to dry, it would not mix with the white, and thus it would just be an opaque color. Okay. The bristles from the fan brush that we selected are much more apparent than the first brush we used. And again, changing the bristle qualities are going to make a big difference in the texture that you paint. So in the brush panel here, what we're going to do is we're going to actually reduce the number of bristles to 40%. Okay, so somewhere around the 40%. And as you can see, it's quite a bit different drawing or painting, I should say, than I had when I painted this one. The bristles are much more spread apart. Okay, so on this next activity here, what we're going to do is we're going to choose a different brush, and we're going to sample the yellow color. So just holding the I key, sample the yellow, which puts it into the foreground. And we're going to select a flat point brush. Okay, we got a flat blunt brush here, and we're going to choose dry, and we're going to go ahead and paint. Okay, and we can actually make sure here that I have the right one going there. Okay, and now if you notice, if I change my load, and just like it did before, the paint is actually going to disappear. Now, just showing you the difference in these brushes. Again, changing the bristles, changing the length. You've got quite a bit of different options that you can be working with here. Okay, so again, with this painting activity, and looks like let's go here. Looks like my Screencast-O-Matic has, there we go. Sorry about that. My Screencast-O-Matic wasn't giving me the different options that I needed here. Anyways, we'll go on to the next thing. So the next step is using an erodible tip, and right now I am just going to move this over here and move the toolbar over here, and then I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit easier on the screen what we're working with here. Okay, so we're going to use an erodible tip, and basically the erodible tip are represented in the brush panel by pencil icons, and you can see them right here, the little pencil icons. And we're just going to experiment with the erodible point. So we're going to go ahead and sample the green color. And if you notice in the foreground panel, it did turn into green. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select one of the erodible tips from the shape menu. So we'll just select This one right here, erodible square. And what we're going to do then, we're going to change the brush size to 30 and the softness to 100%. And my size has changed, so I'll do that to 30. Okay, so now we got that back. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a zigzag over. And very similar to, you know, the load in our paintbrush, basically what happens here is that the tip just basically erodes, and at the end there you don't see the paint. Now we're going to click the sharpen tip in the brush panel and draw a line next to the one we just drew. And again, you can see that once we sharpen it, we can use it. I got about that. I had a phone call there. So anyways, we're going to be using the erodible tip again. I'm going to start back here, and we're going to sample the green color, which we have done from the eyedropper tool. And what we're going to do, we're going to select one of the pencil icons, which you've done here, and I'm just going to go to the erodible point at this point, and you can just leave it at the default of 25 pixels, but we're going to change the softness to 100%. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw, and you notice how wider that tip began from the original place where I started out at. Now if I go to sharpen tip, you notice that it starts out thinner and again gets thicker. Okay, and this is basically what we mean by the erodible tip, and you can sharpen it just like a pencil, and it's going to start out narrower. Okay, so and you can do this with any of the erodible tips. You got flat, round, square, triangle, and you can actually do a custom one. Well, the next thing we're going to do is now we're going to look at mixing colors, and we know that we can change the brush settings over here in the brush panel. We can select various brushes to use, such as the round fan, and we've got the flat blunt tools, the flat round, flat curve tool, and the pencil tool. So you got a big assortment of brushes here that you can be using. So anyways, on to mixing colors. So right now we're going to be working with the palette here, and we want to zoom out just enough so we can see the paint, the colors for the paintbrush. And so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to use the eyedropper and go to the I key on your keyboard, and we're going to select the red. And so we have red in the foreground color. And then we're going to go to the mixer brush tool, and we're going to select the round blunt tool. Okay, and so I believe that is right here. And something's, sorry about that, I turned off the record button there. So again, I'll have to go back to the brush tool here, and I'm going to select the round blunt, or the rounded tool here, and we're just going to go ahead and choose which is the round blunt brush. I make sure I got that right here. I'm sorry, we got the round fan, so maybe, oh, here's the round blunt. Okay, so it is the fifth tool in. So this is a brush we're going to be selecting, and then we're going to choose wet from the pop-up menu, and we're going to paint a circle on the top of the palette. So I'm just going to go into here and do the circle. Okay, and I'm going to clean the brush after each stroke. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the brush, and if you go up to the options palette up here, I go to clean brush, okay, and you can see that the brush has been cleaned here. Then I'm going to take my eyedropper tool, again the eye, and click on that, and you'll notice that the blue comes in here.